We could change the world with love it all unfolds. Ooh, no holding back. We gotta be bold. They say it's over, but I'm not sold.
Hello, and welcome into another podcast, Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement. I am your host, author Stephen Uriest, as well as our host, author Susan Louise Gabriel. I hope everybody out there is having an amazing Christmas season, that your hearts are filled with joy and family and all the pleasant things about Christmas that we love and adore, but also remembering the birth of Jesus Christ. Also, that everybody is in a positive aspect of things, because here at Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement, we always like to be positive. We always like to embrace positivity here. Susan, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm great, Steve. How are you doing? You always ask me how
I
I am.
well,
So how are
I think
you?
our listeners like to know how we're feeling on these Sunday
Yeah,
afternoons, especially during this time of year.
I
I'm
had
doing
a
well right
this
now.
and this morning I wasn't doing very well. I was, sometimes you just sort of feel, I guess, like you wonder what you're doing and you're still laying in bed, not sure what's going to happen when you get up. But it took me a little bit to get my feet under me. But, I'm editing a really interesting book for a lady who people call Dr. D. Um, she's the dean of a college, one of her positions. And the book is really excellent, and it really lifted my mood. It's the name of the book is Faking Fine. In other
Faking
words,
fine.
you're faking that you're fine. So intriguing title, and the book is really great. So I just wanted to mention that, we'll be having that book that will be released, in a few weeks.
That'll
But
be awesome.
I'm finding my love of editing again. I do love to edit. So anybody out there needs any editing done, send it to me. And one more
Definitely.
thing before we bring our guest on is that Adrienne does the nonprofit version of what I spent 30 years doing. So I think we could probably have done each other's jobs because they're essentially the same. Only she
Nice.
does it for nonprofit, and I did it for businesses that were for profit. So now that we've got our audience their appetite all worked up, so they're going to wonder more
Well,
about what it is that she does.
definitely. But before
Yep.
I wanted to address what you said about not knowing what you're doing. Sometimes, even when I know what I'm doing, I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's okay to
Yeah.
be that way.
Yeah. I
We
suppose
do.
many of us feel that way.
Yeah, definitely. So we do have a special guest tonight, Adrienne Malmberg. She's a grant writer, storyteller at Servolution Network. She's also a very passionate individual who we have a lot that we're going to talk about today, and I think that her story is needed to be heard during this time of year. Positivity, helping people, showing people out there how good um, Christians should be, and just helping and giving right now. So, without further ado, let's bring on Adrienne.
Hi, Stephen. Hi,
Adrienne,
Susan. It's good to see
Hi,
you.
Adrienne. Hi.
good to see you
Hi.
Yeah.
too.
Wow, that was an introduction there. Well, hopefully, I can give people some encouragement and just I don't know, impart a little bit of hope. Definitely.
Yeah. You are a very helpful
Oh,
person.
Thank you.
Definitely.
It just feels like it's in your nature. It feels like it just comes, off of you in waves that you want to help. And that's
Oh,
it's a very beautiful thing.
thank you so much. I've never heard anybody say that like that to me, so I really appreciate it. Yeah, I've always been a helper. I've always been a helper.
That's one of the best ways to be in life is to be a helper and help other people come up and up other people into better places. It's makes the world a better place. Um,
Absolutely.
I want to point out your background right there. You have an absolutely beautiful Christmas tree and the stockings hanging up. You must be at work right now. Is that correct?
I am. I am. I'm at our what we call our dream center. It's our warehouse. I have several cats and dogs, and I don't really have a real home office. And between my 20 something kids and my husband and all of the pets racing in and out whenever there's something to bark at, I just thought this would be far better. And it's a better background, too. I really love the wood work and the tree. It's actually a little bit prettier than I thought it would be coming here. So it's great.
And I don't want to get too much further before we hear about the sugar gliders. I think a lot of people don't know what a sugar glider is.
Okay.
And I never heard of anybody keeping one as a pet.
Well, we have two. We have
Uh-huh.
one that is considered a platinum, and she's almost Snow White, and then another one that's kind of she's gray and black, and maybe a little bit of brown. I'm not sure, um, but the white one is Boo, and she came to us. Somebody had a new baby and a bunch of animals, and they just couldn't give her time, and she kind of lost her cage mate um, due to some health problems. So my daughter absolutely loved her, and so we brought her home, and then we got her a little friend about I don't know a couple of years later, and they're just two peas in a pod, and they're super cute. What they are is they're kind of like a little flying squirrel. They've got all of this extra skin between all of their legs, and they can spread out and glide like a little blanket.
Uh-huh.
They're super
Yeah.
fast, and they got little bulgy, beautiful, beautiful, soulful eyes. And yeah, they're hilarious. They are spoiled. They want their Fruit Loops in the morning. They get one apiece. My husband will give them to him. If he substitutes anything other than something really fruity and really sweet, like even Honey Nut Cheerios, one each, oh, they throw it at him. We, I had to stop giving them yogurt covered raisins because my daughter was like, "Mom, don't buy those anymore. They eat the yogurt off the outside." And then my husband, because his office is back with them, apparently he was getting a little raisin stuck to his shirt. And then they're just little stinkers, but they're so
Oh,
beautiful and really great. And they make the weirdest noises. I don't know if you've seen the little wind up toys, the little wind up dogs that would, crawl around and go yip yip
mhm.
yip. Well, when they want something, they bark like that. It's pretty funny. So they're delightful.
Wow.
All of our
Yeah.
animals are delightful. I just love them. So
Yeah. That's
I've
so
I've
cool.
seen videos of sugar gliders and they are super cute. They
I think it was the original Rocky the Flying Squirrel was actually a sugar glider.
maybe I know there are regular flying squirrel type things,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
that's kind of akin. But they're the flaps on their skin. It's just really, really incredible. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to see him in person. So
I,
one of these days I'll come over.
good, good. Well, it depends on how cranky they are. They're
Uh,
nocturnal, and so my daughter is delighted not to have them in her room at night for sure
mhm.
because they would bug her. But um, they're super cute, and boy, when they get mad, they let you know. They it's an indescribable noise. You'll have to look it up.
Wow.
They call it
Yeah.
crabbing. Yeah.
Well,
What a
I
phenomenal.
had to hear about that. Yeah, I just think they're fascinating.
Yeah, I've
That was
always
an
been an animal
absolutely.
person. I grew up riding my horse. I had him for about 30 years, and I can't quite. I don't have the money, but I mean, I can't quite get another horse because it just.
Mhm.
I'm around him, and it just brings back memories, and my
Yeah.
heart's still a little broken. So
So have you always lived in this area?
no, no. I actually grew up in the Seattle area. It's one
Mm.
county north of Seattle, closer to Everett, Washington. And so almost clear across the country. It's just over 2,100 miles if you're driving. And it's absolutely gorgeous up there. You're 2 hours away from any type of climate or recreation you could ask for, even rainforest and desert. So, um, it's pretty amazing, but it's really, really, really difficult to be a person of faith up there. And
I bet.
God brought us down here. It was a really, really long um, journey, very, very complex.
Uh-huh.
But he's been faithful the entire time. It's been amazing.
And you've been here, when did you move here?
In 2013, so we've been here just
Okay.
over
10
10
years.
years. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What an
So I
awesome
think we have some
story.
more
And
formal questions for you too, Stephen, don't we?
well, yeah, I was just about to transition into that.
Sorry, I just got her off track. I have to bring us back on track.
I was gonna say those are some phenomenal stories that you had there, but what I want to hear about is I want to hear about your favorite story about helping someone that made you realize that you were doing your life's purpose.
Well, I don't know that it's any one particular person that I've helped. I've just seen God work so many different ways. But I can tell you that the first couple of grants that I touched really made it clear to me after teaching kids. When you're a teacher, especially you're a writing teacher, and I did that for about 6 years. I felt like I was always cracking the whip, but when I was doing grant writing, I knew it was for a higher, bigger purpose. And so the first two grants that I touched, we won, or at least one part of. Um, and it was God had really put it on my heart, given me a restlessness, and it was kind of like a slap me silly, call me stupid, but I should be doing this. And it's everything that I love to do. I love statistics, absolutely love them. I love to tell people what those statistics have to do with whatever subject we're looking at. What do these statistics mean? And when it comes to helping people, when you start to make sense of what those are, then you can really make it come alive. And obviously, I love storytelling, and so it's just been a journey that God's been preparing me my whole entire life. And so I don't know if I really answered that. I know that there are times, and we see it on Facebook all the time, where somebody needs help. And I can remember one story. It made actually national news. There was a boy here in Parker County, Texas. It was almost 2 years ago, I believe. And he was attacked by a dog after, I think it was two dogs, after he got off the school bus. And he wound up with 2,000 stitches. Well, he was terrified to go outside. And to be a part of this organization, to know what we can do, to network with folks. Basically, we found out, somebody tagged us because this kid was terrified to go outside of his house. he would run from his front door to his vehicle and just terrified. And he needed to be able to play outside. I mean, he was, I think,
Mhm.
7 or 8 at the time, this poor kid. And um, anyhow, we partnered up, Home Depot, and I believe it was Trinity River Fencing, and the Fort Worth PD cadets at the academy. They came, and it was a really cold day. I think it was 18 degrees, and my boss Jason was still in shorts. The man is so funny. But in partnership with those organizations and those companies, and then just people helping, uh, we built him a fence in a day. They came and set the posts the day before, so the concrete would be set. But basically, he had a fence, and he could go play out in his yard that very next day. And there's an amazing video that Everlasting Wedding Films did for us about it, and makes me cry every time. It's about a 3 or 4 minute video, and I I love it. So maybe that's the one.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's
It's
amazing.
very, it is very
And that's not
powerful.
even what we normally do. We normally do home revitalizations and help people age in place, and we have food for the community, and also furniture and appliances and medical supplies for people, like durable equipment, I should say, medical equipment.
Right. Yeah, that's really great. I'm so pleased that there's an organization like that close to me.
Yes, yes, it's so cool to be a part of. Absolutely.
Yeah,
My husband and
that's
I, before he got injured, he and I, when we were up in the Seattle area, we would help with the single moms car care Sunday. He Because we had our own remodeling company, we had all kinds of tools. We would help elderly folks with their homes if they needed repair. One of the ladies, her drainage system, and if you're up in Seattle, you definitely know you need a drainage system around your house.
yeah.
The drainage system had completely failed, and it flooded her basement, and it continued to. And I think she was raising her grandkids. And
Oh,
so, along with our church, we helped give her a whole new drainage system and did some other things. And it's just always, that's always lit my fire.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I can see,
Well,
your enthusiasm when you talk about it.
and it sounds like you've had some challenges coming, especially with Seattle and what you said earlier about um, having to go to Texas because it's hard to practice your faith there, and the struggles you had there. What are some of the other challenges you've had to overcome to be in this stage of your life?
Well, there's been a lot. I can tell you, when I was in college, I was helping out at like a little youth camp or whatever. I went to a Christian college down in Southern California. It's now called Hope International University. It's across the street from Cal State Fullerton. But I was helping out at a church up in the San Bernardino Mountains, and I wound up spraining my arm at a term paper due the next day or something. I don't know, the next week. And so I typed on this sprained arm, and for about 15 years after that, I suffered with tendonitis um,
Oh,
in both elbows, because when you have to rest one, you overuse the other. And so finally learned really how to cope with that, but it delayed us having children and everything. And then my husband, the man, I know God's got more for him because he's still alive. He's been electrocuted. He's been, and not just like little 110, in a house outlet plug. Like, he was in a machine shop and got blown clear out of the room, um,
wow.
Uh,
electrocuted, and just all the arthritis, and just trying to persevere through his disability. We pretty much lost everything up in Seattle a few years before we moved down here to Texas. And we were actually weeks from being homeless. The bank was not kind to us. It was basically the 08, 09 crash. And down here in Texas, it was a minor crash compared to up there. I mean, there was no work whatsoever. You could do 100 resumes and maybe get 5 callbacks up there. And down here, you could put out 100 resumes and get 20 callbacks. So, but anyhow, he was hurt. He's also been hit as a pedestrian. And so that pretty much ended our business. We'd been booked out about 1.5 to 2 years because everybody loved his integrity. And I was always able to come alongside any of the women who were nervous about their remodel and just kind of say, hey, this is how this works. And it's okay. Let's pick some colors for you and just kind of reassure them, because remodeling super duper stressful.
Yeah.
And then so after that, I mean, he and I were both out of work in 2012. He happened to come down here to help our cousin, down here to Texas, to help our cousin move. And he discovered, number one, that there were jobs down here. And number two, that his arthritis, he could get off of his pain meds. And that was huge.
Yeah.
Up in Seattle. And
the humidity. Yeah. The humidity's hard on arthritis.
Yeah. It's bone chilling when it's super humid and it's 35 degrees and raining. And so he stayed down here. I played single mom for almost a year until we could save up enough for me and the kids. I have a daughter who's 20 and a son who's 23. And we saved up enough and we came down, and one of our vehicles looked like Ma and Pa Kettle. I kid you not. We had furniture stacked up. I'm sure if you went on my husband's Facebook page, you'd probably find that picture of us with our Bronco and our overloaded trailer, and then the U-Haul hauling a Jeep Wrangler and just stuffed to the gills. We even managed to our betta fish. We had one, and we managed to keep him in the little cup holder in the U-Haul, and he was he crossed the Continental Divide and everything. It was pretty amazing.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
And our dogs and cats did great too, but they hated the cats hated being in a cage. So yeah.
Oh my God.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So those have been some of your hardships of your journey. I mean, those are definitely challenges, but what has been your favorite part of your journey?
Right now. I have to tell you right now. I mean, not like specifically this day, but just seeing.
Oh, come on. I was hoping you'd say being on this podcast.
Surely we could be contenders.
It is a pretty good day. I'm actually feeling somewhat accomplished. My husband is I have to say this. My husband's doing better. We got both of his hips and a knee replaced, and that was hard too. That was 2020, 2021 through COVID and everything. And he had some setbacks, but he's doing a lot better. And he had another procedure just recently that, praise God, it really, really helped him a lot. And so now he's able to do a little bit more, but we just built our third chicken tractor. It's like a mobile chicken coop on wheels, and we just move it every day, and so that the chickens can eat the grass underneath, and they'll feel like they're sort of free range. But
it's like free range, only not.
Yeah. Well, we have this new cat. Believe it or not, he's this white fluffy thing, and he's got the brightest ginger orange tail, and ears and markings on his face. But he literally, I think he's killed at least one of our chickens. I thought it was my
Oh,
dog, but this cat literally, I've caught him just he doesn't ride for very long, but he will find a place to lay in wait for these chickens, and he's ridden a chicken a foot or two a couple of times, and I'm just like, we gotta save these chickens from the cat.
yeah,
I've never
yeah.
had that. So yeah, and
Wow.
I think we've had some wild animals and stuff because we live a little bit out in the country. So yeah,
Yeah.
never a dull moment at my house. So yeah, we're making our third chicken tractor, and we pretty much finished it today, which was really cool. We started it yesterday. But
Yeah, that sounds like it would be fun to see.
well, you can come over anytime because you're not very far.
No, I'm not very far, so I'll definitely make a trip over there.
Yeah. So, and I'm tired of the chickens being on my patio. They're making a mess.
Yeah.
My daughter loves chickens, and she always asks me to get chickens, and I'm like, no, I'm not getting chickens. Sorry, but I'd love to bring her over. We'll fly out to Texas sometime just to go check out your chicken coop.
Oh, absolutely. I would love for you to do that.
Yep.
That would definitely be fun.
So yeah, that
So
was
you're a
the long
grant
answer
writer.
to that question.
I love it. I love it. So you're a grant writer. You're a storyteller. You're a traveler across the U.S. with a ma and pa kettle style. You've had some tragedy. You've had some triumph.
Yeah.
But as a grant writer, what has been the grant that you remember the most?
Well, and I'm not sure I told you this earlier when we were communicating. In 2021, when I was still teaching, I had the opportunity to help Servolution Network with some grants. I knew they needed help with grant writing, and I knew God was calling me in a different direction away from the classroom. And so they wanted help fixing. They had written a couple of grants in years past to try and win a building. And it was through Texas Country Reporter and Mueller Buildings, Mueller Metal Buildings. They're down in Ballinger, Texas, is their corporate headquarters. And lo and behold, at the end of the school year, I helped them, I think in March or April, and I still didn't even have a good grasp of what Servolution was all about. I'd helped on the periphery, but I picked my coworker Cassie Long's brain, and I'm like, Cassie, I really need to get this full scope. Give me this big understanding of what we can leverage as far as what they'll want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically, we were about to be homeless. We were borrowing a building through the city of Azle, but the building had to be condemned because one of the freezes had really messed it up. So it was kind of our lumber storage and things like that. But so I helped, and it was March or April of 2021. Well, lo and behold, about June 6th or 7th of 2021, I get a phone call. And my now coworker, Cassie, she's like, we won. And we won a 4,000 square foot building. And it's the building that I'm in right now is an accessory building that my boss had for about 5 years, sitting in his yard waiting for a place. And then when we won the Mueller building, we had a piece of property. Thankfully, the church at Azle here kind of 99-year lease sort of gave us this piece of property. And so we won a building. And I got to tell all of my students, if you want to know why you should learn to write, this is your why.
Yeah.
You can convince somebody to either give you money or give you a building. And this building has been so amazing. I mean, there are school events held here. We're about to have the second annual AZL and kind of a Parker County area night to shine through the Tim Tebow Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
The Edge Church, that's coming up, I think February 9th or 10th. It's all on the same night every year, and I can't remember exactly. And since we've won the building, when we won the building, we were at about 150 homes that we had revitalized and made more
Wow.
accessible. It was somewhere between 110 and 150. I don't know at that particular date what it was. We are now, and this was only 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. We are now at about 285 homes.
Wow.
So that's the
Wow.
impact of that building. So we've impacted, over 100 homeowners, which means we've impacted hundreds of people because they have families and things like that.
Yeah.
We've allowed them to age in place. The work that we do allows them to age in place. So if you look at return on investment, we say each house averages about $2,500
Yeah.
to help. And if you look at it, I mean, an ambulance ride is $2,500 if you've got to go very far.
Mhm.
So, I mean, how much more time has somebody been able to stay in their home? We've had churches meet in our building. We have 4-H that meets in our building. We did a family Christmas thing, Hope from Heaven, and that's coming, I think, next weekend. We're impacting 50 families through the Hope from Heaven folks. And if we hadn't had this building, it might not have happened the first year. And now this is, I think, year 3 that they're doing.
So I have to ask you, how did you learn to write grants?
That's a hard one because I got to tell you, I mean, God has prepared my journey forever. I mean, I've always loved words. I've always loved to write. And I think I even said to you at some point, Susan, when my dad was in high school, my dad struggled with reading and spelling and just all kinds of things. And he had a high school teacher that would make them write about a specific word. And I can't remember if it was every day or every week, but they had a 500-word essay, and they would have to look it up in the dictionary. They'd have to look at the word parts. Where did it come from? How is it used? Use it, so on and so forth. And so my dad began to love words, and he shared that with me. And it wasn't until I lost him last year. He passed away Father's Day morning, very, very early in the morning. I was with him.
Wow.
And I didn't want him to go on Father's Day because I thought this is terrible. But then I realized my dad had the most epic Father's Day ever. He got to meet Jesus.
Yeah.
And I'm tearing up right now, but God was planning this through my dad's high school teacher. Can you believe that? That's the way God works. I mean, I have no other explanation. And it hit me only after my dad had passed. And so, gosh, it was so amazing. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No need to apologize.
Anyhow, it wasn't until after my dad had passed that I realized that God had been planning this all the time. I mean, I love technical writing. I love putting things together, and I love statistics and the storytelling. Obviously, I can talk your ears off here. and I love to wrap it all up together. And so I'm not really formally trained. I don't even have an
Mhm.
English degree. I have a business degree.
Uh-huh.
And my business knowledge, things like return on investment, getting people to give buy-in, what's your
Mhm.
why kind of thing,
Right. Yes.
has been so incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, my dad's passion for words, I get to the point where I like to use unusual words or words that aren't used very often. I just feel like this word is lonely. It needs to be used.
I know, I do that too. Me too. I'll run across another word that I haven't used in a long time or that I've never used. And I think that's a really cool word. I want to start using that word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes those more unusual words are
Mhm.
just amazing. I'm sorry, I'm still
Yeah.
crying here. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I
I
can,
like to throw them out there every so often.
yeah.
Flippertigibbet. Do you know that one?
What?
A flippertigibbet. Do you know what a flippertigibbet is?
Oh
I
gosh,
used
I've
I
heard
used to
that
read.
before. It's kind of
Yeah, because
nonsense, right?
yeah, it's somebody who's like a flighty person. Uh,
Oh yes, 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 yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah. I used to love, man, I loved to read, but I loved to read things that were unusual, like British novels from
Oh,
17th century. That's where that kind of stuff came from. Yeah, but
it's funny because now that I was an English teacher, and I got to tell you that teaching 90 to 120 kids every year and having to grade sixth, seventh, and eighth grade writing, because
wow.
I ended up teaching sixth grade the most, but um, you have to be really quick. Hey, did they do the job that I asked them to do?
Hmm.
Um, did it make sense? It may not have to be perfect. I was kind of not a great teacher that way. I wanted my kids to give me some output, because if
Hmm.
you don't have any output, if you don't write anything, I can't grade anything. But
Well,
if you
yeah,
put it out there, and it might not be perfectly spelled and it might not be perfectly punctuated, but give me something to work with. And I
yeah.
spent a lot of time, I had a lot of ESL students, and kids would give me virtually nothing to work with, and
Hmm.
I had to find ways to get them to write.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, I mean, that was a challenge for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, ESL stands for English as a Second Language. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. Oh, and I got to tell you, you're going to love this. Um, about 40% of my students were Hispanic, but another 40% were from the Marshall Islands. They were Marshallese. And so we had, and even now, the school that I was teaching at is Keene Junior High. It's about an hour south of here. Uh, so amazing. Our pep rallies had hula dancing. It was incredible.
Yes.
But these kids, they had this wonderful Ohana um, just spirit about them. The sweetest, sweetest, sweetest people ever. I mean, all of my students I loved. I didn't like having to jump through hoops from the state and all of that. Um, but I loved having opportunities to, enrich my students' um, lives and get them to feel like they've achieved something. But these kids, um, I learned that their sense of Ohana, uh, and that's that sense of family, and you've got to help
Right.
your family because they're
Uh-huh.
all related. I mean, they're all
Yeah,
cousins, second cousins, or whatever.
yeah.
And I realized because people would get so frustrated, they were cheating. Well, these kids had such a sense of Ohana ingrained into their family and into their culture that they viewed it as helping each other and bringing each
Right.
other up. And so
Yes.
um, I it took a while for me to realize that, because I'd get really upset because I don't like it when people cheat. And I realized I've got to teach them the difference between helping and cheating.
Yeah.
And once they got it, oh my gosh, I had girls in tears. Mrs. Malmberg, I cheated when I was in third grade, and I'm like, okay, sweetheart, you understand this now. Let's move on. Oh God, it was adorable. I loved my students. I really did.
Yeah.
But God called me to different things, and just being that teacher and learning some of those skills about quick editing and discerning. Do you have you done the job that the grant has asked you to do?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
been amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
would
that's
venture to say
exciting.
that
What was that, Stephen?
you have been probably the most influential person in some of your students and grant recipients' lives.
I hope
I'm
so.
curious, who's been the most influential person in your life?
Well, I would say my dad. My dad for sure. Um, he was my go-to and my rock whenever I'd have a problem. My mom, not so much. My mom is still in Seattle, and she's got dementia. My stepmom is down in Waco, and I see her and I call her mom as well, because there's nothing better than having two moms. They're
Yeah.
amazing. And she and my dad had been married for almost 50 years.
Wow.
So she was just as much of a mom to me. But my dad, he was so influential, not just academically for me as far as his love for words and things, but his faith. Um, he'd gone through some really tough times, and had actually been involved in the occult, and it scared the living daylights out of him. And he never really would talk about it a whole lot, but
Wow.
he taught me so much about discernment and just hanging on to God. My dad was a flawed person, but he was amazing. I mean, he served, helped serve in the Justice Center as kind of part of their chaplain program. He loved helping people who were in trouble with the law, at least trying to mentor them and be there. And actually, there's a guy who's still in prison who still writes to my mom down here in Waco. So um, it's pretty amazing. My dad had a really amazing life, and um, I didn't find out until I was an adult, and this has really, really impacted me. And somebody might not like me bringing this up, but um, my dad wasn't supposed to be here. Um, he was supposed to have been aborted, but my grandmother said no. And I think about it, and if my
Oh,
dad
wow.
weren't here, I wouldn't have been here. And I know God would have used somebody to help Servolution out. I know for sure. I have every confidence. But I mean, what an incredible life I've had. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you, I've been at the end of my rope many times. But um, gosh, my dad was amazing, amazing man.
Wow. Wow. That
Wow. That's
that's
quite a
amazing.
story. Yeah.
That is definitely wow. you you put things into perspective, um, especially at this time of year. You brought up Ohana and family and your
Yes.
family and being influenced by it. Everything you do with Servolution helps others. Like the 280 families now that you've helped with their homes, you've changed their lives. Being a teacher, you helped influence these kids. And I'm so just overwhelmed with emotion right now. I
I'm
appreciate
sorry.
everything on there.
And here I was kind of scared out, you know. So
Yeah.
You told me sometime that you had some recent news come up and with regards to your family. Is there anything else you'd want to share with us, or what your future developments are?
well, I know with my family, I have a son who's 23 and he's a youth pastor, which I'm so super proud of him.
Yeah.
And my daughter, they both graduated in the top 10 of their class. And my daughter, who's 20,
Nice.
we recently found out that she was on the spectrum. You know, she's always kind of gone to her own, how do I want to say this? Just her beat of her own drum, I guess.
Mhm.
And come to find out, she is on the autism spectrum, and it's not just mild;
Mhm.
it's moderate.
Mhm.
And she also struggles with really severe anxiety. She saw my husband get hit by a car when she was about 5.
How
Um,
awful.
and not at high speed, praise the Lord. So, but I mean, it really altered our lives, and that was the final straw that kind of put
Mhm.
us in this um, spiral to homelessness. But and she has really really severe ADHD, and um, the psychiatrist that diagnosed her, she was stunned that my daughter was able to graduate, 10th in her class, and she'd already
Yeah.
gotten halfway to her AA degree, and that's just a testament of um, just how smart she is, and she's
Mhm.
amazing. She's really talented with art.
Mhm.
She makes jewelry and things like that, but she's really struggling, and we are kind of on a journey trying to figure out, some medications. There's another diagnosis, and I know she doesn't want me to share publicly, so I'm not going to. But uh, it means a lifetime of medication,
Mhm.
and so we're trying to find um, the right combination for her. The autism, in some ways, is a blessing, um, but it's also makes things a little more difficult because it's hard to sort out what's the ADHD and the other problems and versus the autism. So,
Mhm.
um, you know, it's a journey that was completely unexpected for us. I kind of started getting an inkling about halfway through, or maybe the beginning of her senior year, because I kept seeing my students that had autism, and I'm kind of like, wait a second,
Mhm.
she does that too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
but in girls, it looks so different because girls are
Mhm.
naturally better communicators. The
Mhm.
expectation to communicate is much higher. Um, but I mean, she was in a little bit of a crisis earlier this year, and praise God, he's just helping us figure out how to walk through life with her.
Mhm.
But I sure wish we would have known. We probably would have been, been better parents, because the ADHD and all of that. You kind of think, lazy teenager, come on, you know,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
not really realizing that this truly is a huge
Yeah.
struggle for her.
Right. And
So
I had the opportunity and blessing to get to meet her last weekend.
I forgot. Yes, yes, you did.
Yeah.
Church, yes,
Yes. She's a very sweet young lady. Yes. I
yes,
was very impressed. But yes, I do see, I could see the autism, a few signs of that as well. But I mean, to me, I have worked with some people with autism, and
uh-huh.
uh, it just so happened that the ones that I had worked with were very fun people. They were very interesting, more
Yes.
interesting than the average person. So, that to me is not a negative. It's
No.
Yeah, it's
something
not.
that,
Not at all.
it just means that they're their own person. And I love that.
Yes. And one of the things, she's always struggled with faith, and um I I struggle with faith as far as, how's my walk supposed to look? Because it doesn't look like other people's walk. And I finally realized, we work out our own faith in our own selves. It's not,
Yes.
Paul said you have to work out your faith. It doesn't
Yeah.
say you have to work out your faith the way everybody else does. And
Right.
so
Exactly.
my prayer for my girl is that she works out her faith and makes her faith her own. That
Yeah.
God really gives her a paradigm shift and says, look, your faith does not have to look like your brother's who's a pastor,
Right.
um,
Right.
because there's this tendency, I think, that she wants to have the faith that we do, and she doesn't realize she already has it.
Yeah. Well,
And
has she had a chance to read the Searching for Proof of Faith book
um,
that Rick wrote?
no, I have not asked her to do that. She's still struggling with
Hmm.
her identity right now. So,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. She's
yeah,
probably not yet ready for that, but yeah, keep that in the back of your mind. It's if she asks the right questions, it might be, an answer, a way that she can get answers.
yeah, yeah. It's hard because as a parent, you can't really tell your kids things.
Yeah,
It's kind
I
of like
know.
our parents couldn't tell us.
Oh, I know. Tell me about it.
So I guess and I've been saying this a lot to a lot of people. Even I think the answer with this whole Israel and Hamas thing is Joel. I think it's 2:28 through 29, where it talks about God pouring out His Spirit and sending young men dreams and old men dreams and young men visions, and daughters will prophesy. And that's what
Mhm.
I'm praying for my daughter as well, is that God would give her a dream or a vision that would cement that not only intellectually but here in her heart, because you know how
Yeah.
powerful dreams can be. So
Yes.
and I pray that for all these folks who are doing evil things, even the people that nobody wants to like, because ultimately God doesn't want to leave anybody behind. And
No.
if we can pray for that dream and that vision, and it's kind of like, some of these folks on the street that are homeless, it's like, God,
Hmm.
bring somebody into their life that makes the difference.
Hmm.
And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
That God,
I
God
agree.
would have wants no one to perish, everyone to have eternal life. So yeah, that's the
Yeah.
God's will
I
is for everyone to find Him.
I don't know if you've heard my story, but for a little over 25 years, I was actually an atheist. I did not believe in God.
Wow.
I grew up Catholic. I read different religions. I've read different faiths. I've read different stories. I
Mhm.
listened. I went on my own journey, and I went to atheism. It took 24 years for me to meet Susan to show me the light to help bring me back. And it's been literally since February of this year that I've started coming back towards the light and then seeing how my life has changed, because who I was a year ago and who I am now are two completely different people. Two people, somebody you wouldn't even recognize anymore, and where it is, it's just been interesting. So
That's
don't try to force your daughter to have it.
oh
She'll
no.
come to it when it's right for her. Just love her, pray for her.
Yep.
She's figuring this stuff out too. And now that you know the diagnosis of it, at least you're not thinking it's something else. At least you
Yep.
can pinpoint it, you can deal with it, you can learn from it. she can learn too, and you guys are going to learn together. And
Yes.
there's a plan
It's
in
a
that.
learning
So
curve for all of us.
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, we're all a little bit older now, and you were talking about your children, but would you give any advice to your younger self?
I would probably say stop being so impatient. You don't have to change the world when you're 20. Um, Soak it all in. Soak it all in and be present. I'm terrible about, looking forward, 6 months from now and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
I have a hard time sitting and just being present and just
Mhm.
soaking it in. And,
Mhm.
you know, thank God that he gave me so many different jobs because I gave you a whole list of things that I've done before.
Yeah.
And I just thank God that I have learned something from every single one of those jobs and
Mhm.
just to be patient because back when I was 20, 53 that I am right now, I was old, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes that age and that wisdom and that learning, I wish we weren't so dang complicated. I wish we could learn things better and quicker and easier. It's
Mhm.
kind of like every now and then I think, God, can you just turn that switch on or off, whatever I need?
Yeah. I
Uh,
know. I know that feeling.
but it doesn't work that way. And sometimes it's really
No.
frustrating.
No.
And
And you take some steps forward and then you fall back and then you have to kind of regain the ground again. You know,
yes,
it's not a straightforward, easy path.
yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Well, it's just about that time. However, it is that time of year as well. So
Yeah.
I'd like to take these last few minutes to ask you, what are your Christmas wishes this year? What do you want to say out to our audience to spread the Christmas joy around?
Well, can I tell just a quick story? We
Of
were
course.
Of
when
course.
when we were almost homeless. There were times when we didn't have any money for Christmas, and Christmas is what you make of it. It
Mhm.
is. It's not all about the gift wrap and everything else. I wound up shopping at the dollar store for my kids, and I relied on my parents to buy them the nicer gifts,
Mhm.
and they didn't care. It's kind of like when you unbox a cat tree for a cat. Well, they just as soon play with the box.
Yeah.
So we just tried to make it fun. We had good things to eat, even if it was just a little bit of those good things. Um, and we had good times, and we we just spent time with our kids.
Mhm.
So don't be stressed out if you don't have the money for everything because your kids really need you. They
Mhm.
don't need the money.
Right.
Yes, sometimes it's great to give them great times. But honestly, we went through probably a dozen years of really, really, really hard times. And it seemed like that tunnel was never going to end. But, my kids, they look back and they say, we're kind of glad we didn't have all the expensive toys because it taught us to appreciate the. We had a cousin that gave us his GameCube, and it was when GameCubes weren't even being made anymore. It was. I think the thing was probably about 10 years old, but we had so much fun playing Mario Kart on it.
Uh-huh.
So you don't have to have the really nice things. Buy something used. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
I
So
love
Yeah.
that. I kind of needed to hear
Yeah.
that too.
yeah, yeah.
Really
This is
good
this is my
advice.
this is my first year as a single dad, and I'm trying uh, everything I can to make the Christmas special for them. And Susan, you told me it's not about the gifts; it's about what you do and how
Mhm.
you spend the holidays. And I've gone out and I found organizations that help with gifts and help with things that we do, and we go out and we spend time together and we have fun. And I've I have grown so much closer to my kids right now than I have in a long time, and it feels really good, and I'm very happy with it. So thank you
Yeah.
for spreading that message out there.
Yeah. You don't need to
Susan,
have a lot of money to have fun. And the first year that I was a single mom, we had nothing. We really had nothing also. But somebody gave us a small Christmas tree, and I got a hold of some ribbons, a bunch of rolls of ribbon, and we tied bows on the branches of the
Oh,
tree. It looked
that
really
would be
pretty. But boy,
beautiful.
was it cheap. It was very cheap, but you
Well,
know,
popcorn strings, I've never done the popcorn,
yeah,
yeah,
but um,
yeah.
that sort of thing
Yeah,
is
that's
pretty amazing.
exactly. There, you don't need anything fancy. We lost the ornaments, in the divorce. So we had to make do, come up with
Egg
something new.
cartons, glitter, and a little paint, and
Yeah. Yeah,
there you
that's
wow,
right. We used to make those too, all
yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fun to be
Gotta be
creative.
creative.
we used to
Yeah.
have to do that. Yeah, I mean, we just made do with whatever we had, and
Yeah.
there were times when I had to remake something to make it look new,
Hmm.
or combine a couple of things for my kids to just create something new. Then we did it.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's okay. You don't
Oh,
have
Yes.
to have
yes.
everything.
And in this day and age and at this time, I utilize the internet and see the Facebook groups and people giving away free stuff. And it's stuff that they no longer use, but is in really
Yes.
great shape. And I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of resources out there that people can definitely utilize.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful. Susan, do you have a Christmas message that you want to send out to our listeners?
Just don't ever forget the reason for the season.
Absolutely.
I I agree. Um, However, at the same time, um, there are many different holidays going on at this time of year in all different faiths.
Mhm.
And our faith teaches us to accept everybody and to love everybody and to appreciate everybody and to help everybody, regardless of their faith, their background, their race, creed, color, anything. We help them. And that is what I want to share with everybody out there is that it is, in so many aspects, a very difficult time of year for some people.
Yes.
A lot of people are going through the first Christmas without somebody that was always there, or knowing that they're not going to have somebody next year. This could be the last Christmas that they spend with somebody this year. Other people are going through financial situations because the cost of living is becoming so expensive out there that it's more and more difficult to live. When you're out and about, just be kind, be
Yes.
patient,
Hmm.
smile,
Yes.
give compliments, be helpful. Don't be that person that yells at the cashier because a price is wrong, or be that person that cuts off somebody in traffic because it's going a little bit slower. This is the time of year where we learn that love can change the world, and I want to see more love out there in the world.
Yes. Give people grace. You
Yes.
never know. You never know. Somebody may be having a terrible day and yelling about the price because they
Hmm.
may have just lost somebody or something.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
right,
um, yeah, just always be kind.
Right.
definitely.
I completely agree. Mm.
Well, I want to thank everybody for our podcast tonight. And Adrienne, thank you so much for coming on. I absolutely adored hearing your story. caused us to get a little bit more emotional and show us that the Christmas is really about giving and loving and what the reason for the season is. So I want to thank you for coming on to Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement. I want to thank everybody out there for watching with us tonight. It was an absolutely fantastic episode. Um, I hope everybody has a safe and wonderful week and a very happy new year. So, thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you guys next week.
And thank you so much, Adrienne.
Thank you
We
for
had
having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
You're
it
welcome.
really was.
Thank
I
you.
agree.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
God bless y'all. Bye.
You too.